Hi everyone, my name is Marta and I'm a designer. And the question I get asked most when people ask me what I do is, so you draw it, right? Few seconds pass, it gets a bit awkward by the time I take my breath and begin to answer. Yeah, that's not only to be immediately interrupted by my conversational partner. Okay, I get it. You must be either designing clothes or chairs. And don't take me wrong, I really appreciate when people are asking me what I do, even though there is an existing misconception about what people think designers do and what we actually do. My design journey started at a very young age. I remember one day I built this drum set from pots and plates I stole from the kitchen. As you can imagine, my first concert wasn't a great success because of two reasons. First of all, I decided to play my drums at 6 in the morning. And second of all, the spoons I chose to be my drumsticks were making too much noise while in contact with the metal surface of the pots. I encountered a problem. The gears of my young, reckless mind start turning, and I came up with the idea how to improve my design. I took a clay and put it on the top of the drumstick to suppress the sound. And it worked. As you might imagine, my parents were not very happy and they didn't recognize what a defining moment it was in my life. But it didn't stop me, and that's probably why I stand here in front of you today. At that point in my life, and up until I decided to apply to Glasgow School of Art, I had no idea what design is and what designers do. To be perfectly honest, it is very confusing because there is a wide range of design professions, such as fashion designers that design clothes and furniture designers that design chairs. Before I move on, let me ask you a question. What do you think design is? And don't worry, I'm not going to ask anyone to give me the answer out loud, so I'll give you a few seconds to think about it. I'm pretty sure that most of your ideas are so good they will make me want to change my slides. But anyways, design is a process which 99.9% of the time looks like this. It involves an enormous level of uncertainty, requires patience, and a constant experimentation. Just imagine you came up with this great idea. You think you're on the right track. You work like crazy, and then boom, blind alley. You try again, and again, and 1,000 more times until you reach the point of clarity, which, to be honest, might be very draining and exhausting, but on the other hand, really rewarding and exciting journey. Let's take it a step further. Design is an approach to problem solving that integrates the cognitive activities of design thinking. And design thinking is a human-centered approach to innovation that integrates needs of people, possibilities of technology, and requirements for business success. Design wouldn't be necessary were it not for problems that trigger creative thinking and gives a purpose. Has any one of you ever come across a book called Vision in Motion? I highly recommend taking a look when having a cup of coffee. And this is where this quote comes from. Designing is not a profession, but an attitude. In fact, the author was a true embodiment of his own words, a restless experimentalist who was not afraid to question norms and think with his own head. And that's the approach that should be encouraged and cultivated from the very young age, when we were kids. My childhood was full of adventures and experiments. As you can see, I had a potential to become a fashion icon. So if any of you are wondering why I don't design clothes, this is the reason why. In fact, we are all born with this creative mind and limitless imagination. Do you still remember the story about pots I told you before? Now, let's take a look at the design thinking process proposed by the Hasso-Plattner Institute of Design at Stanford. It consists of 5 main stages: empathize, define, ideate, prototype, and test, and try to analyze my invention using these steps. First of all, we can clearly see that I didn't follow any of these steps. I didn't empathize with the user, didn't define my brief. My ideation and prototyping took maybe a couple of minutes, and I never had a chance to test it, mainly because of my parents' disapproval to play drums at 6 in the morning. But even though I didn't follow the process, we can say that I designed a solution. I identified the problem, and through applying a right attitude, came up with a simple yet successful solution. So far, we know that design is a process, a problem-solving, human-centered approach, but also an attitude of questioning norms, dealing with uncertainty, and applying creativity to problem-solving, which should be cultivated. But what do designers do? In fact, there is a wide range of existing design professions. So when someone, in the case me, tells you I'm a designer, you might find it very hard to guess what I do. I could be, for example, a graphic, fashion, product, or service designer. So let me rephrase what I've said at the beginning of this talk. I'm a product designer. I know what some of you are thinking right now. I knew she designs chairs. Although I never had a chance to design one, but maybe one day, who knows? Okay, Marta, if you don't design chairs, so what exactly do you do? I design experiences. Now I see some confused faces in the audience, so let me explain what I mean by that. The other day, together with 2 of my flatmates, we decided to treat ourselves and go out for lunch. As you can imagine, I was really excited to finally eat something else than Tesco meal deal. What I also remember is that I was really hungry. But when we were about to leave, one of my flatmates said that she would have to stop by the bank on our way to the restaurant. Fine, I thought. They say that food tastes even better when you're hungry. We walked into the bank. 2 of us sat down on a sofa next to the entrance where we waited for my flatmate to sort out her bank things out. I remember it was a weekday, an early afternoon, so there were just a few people queuing to the counter, which gave me hope that we wouldn't spend ages waiting. We decided to start chatting to pass on some time. Although each of us studies completely different things, we often talk about our interests. In fact, we have a business, tech, and a design student living in one apartment. So whenever we have one of these rough days, we joke that we should drop out of university and build a startup. Anyways, at this point of a conversation, we started discussing design, and more specifically, my university projects. And then I got asked this question: what do you mean by designing experiences? My brain froze. How am I supposed to explain something so intangible? I looked around, waiting for some hints. Well, I started a bit unsure what I'm going to talk about. Let's take this place as an example. I lean forward to have a better view of the space and start to analyze it step by step. The first thing that grabbed my attention was the spaciousness of the place. With the high ceiling and a mezzanine in the back, we just intensified the feeling. The whole space was divided into 4 sections. One circular open space in the middle, a narrow rectangular section of ATMs on the left side, a waiting area with couches on the right side, and a mezzanine at the back where customers can go and talk to their financial advisors. There was the "Let's Talk" sign placed in the wall in the middle of the mezzanine. And I found it really interesting how the presence of this phrase influenced the way the whole service was perceived. Let's talk. Doesn't it sound friendly, inviting? Big white letters stood out against the dark wall and were visible from the entrance. And since personal finances are a very sensitive topic, it is important that people feel comfortable discussing it. Unlike any other branches I visited before, this one didn't feel intimidating at all. A regular long counter with a glass screen and partitions that you usually see in traditional branches was replaced with smaller individual counters that were equipped with a computer, printer, and a tablet. None of the employees was wearing a suit. Instead, they were replaced with smart casual outfits, which made them look less intimidating and patronizing. Each time a customer was coming to the counter, he or she was greeted by the employee and invited to stand next to him, instead of, as in other banks, on the opposite side, separated with a desk. And all of these elements were there for a reason: to create an experience of a place that is trustful, yet professional, and provide customers with a great customer experience. But experience wouldn't exist without emotions. I really like how April Greenman, who is one of the most influential contemporary American graphic designers, captured this thought. Design must seduce, shape, and perhaps more importantly, evoke an emotional response. How often do we think about objects seducing us? It is a very compelling way to show that the purpose of design reaches far beyond making just aesthetically pleasing objects. I'm assuming that most of you are familiar with Maslow's hierarchy of needs, but I'm not sure how many of you know that there is a design hierarchy of needs pyramid. Its principle states that design must meet the lower level functional needs before addressing the top level experiential ones. In other words, design has to be usable before it becomes pleasurable and meaningful. Just like a bank's branch, which first and foremost gives people a good experience, and on the other hand, just creates a better, refined banking experience. To conclude, I'm not here to tell anyone to leave their jobs to universities and go to design school, but give you a glimpse of what design is and what is the role of designers in all of it. Almost everything we interact on a daily basis was designed by someone. That's why it's so important for us designers to be responsible creators and problem solvers. And you know what the best part is? We are all creative problem solvers, but some of us, including myself, decided to turn into profession. So turn on your wild creative mind. Be curious, observe, analyze, and cherish those experiences and products. It doesn't matter if you are eating at your favorite restaurant, waiting at the bank, walking down the street, or even now, sitting here in this auditorium. Be curious, observe, analyze, and be more mindful about what's surrounding you. And to finally answer the burning question of, so you draw right? Yes, I do. Thank you.